This is our staff meeting, December 3rd, 2024. We've got 3 agenda items. The first one is the Enterprise Zone Agreement. We've got Harry Blanton from Alloy here to present on this project, and we've also got Linda Fitzgerald of the City of Reading here to talk about the project as well. And then we've got others in the audience, and we will call them forward as need be related to the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. As you mentioned, I'm Harry Blanton with the Hamilton County Economic Development Office. We have before you for your consideration an enterprise zone agreement with Givaudan Flavors Corporation in the City of Reading. So just a real quick overview of the project. They will be, I'm sorry, before I get into the details, I did want to introduce some of the folks that are in the audience here to support the project. We have Linda Fitzgerald from the City of Reading. We have Fred Wilson with Givaudan. We also have their consultants from Cushman and Wakefield. We have Brian Beaudre from Ready and Melissa from Port Authority, as well as Michael Wynn from our office. So we are all here to answer your questions that you might have. As I mentioned, the project will be in the City of Reading, a 100,000 square foot building. This will be a brand new facility for them. The details include a $130 million investment, 80 million of that being for new construction, 50 million for new machinery and equipment. There will be 308 new permanent full-time positions created in the City of Reading, so this will be a major expansion and a major impact on the city. The average salary of the employees will be almost $75,000. One aspect of the project that we wanted to point out is that Givaudan has an existing plant in the city of Cincinnati in Carthage. While they will be relocating some of those positions to the facility in Reading, all of those positions except for 2 will be backfilled in the city of Cincinnati. So this won't have a major impact on the city of Cincinnati. They will backfill those jobs over the time of the agreement. Also, want to mention that we are recommending 100% for 15 years on this project since it's so transformational. Some of the other aspects that we wanted to point out for the incentive for the consideration of 100% for 15 years is that we were in competition with other states for this project. Ready and the Port Authority were part of the team that put together this package, so they've also been supporting it. It's a former brownfield site that had to be cleaned up. It was vacant for approximately 10 years and was a blight on the community until the port redeveloped it. There was a pipeline that had to be moved. So because of all these considerations, we recommended 100% for 15 years. And I want to allow Ms. Fitzgerald to get up and show the support of the City of Reading, and then we will allow the company to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Harry.
Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here. It seems like, okay, we're close to making this decision, but this project for the City of Reading and the Port Authority goes back 5 years when we realized that we had a brownfield site, a site that had been a chemical plant since the 1930s. Of course, we were all suspicious what was under the ground and in the water. And working with the folks at the Port Authority, we were able, and they were able, with help from the county, Ready Cincinnati, and the port, and the city, to come up with funding to get the site job ready. And then the fun part began of finding the right match for the city. And I am here on behalf of the mayor and council to tell you this is the right match. It meets all the benchmarks that we laid out with the Port Authority in terms of jobs and investment and community engagement. The representatives of the company met with our council in executive session and were able to address all the questions that they had regarding the project. And when they left, there was a unanimous feeling among the council members that the requested enterprise zone agreement be approved. And this is not said just haphazardly. You have not seen me here for very many enterprise zone agreements because we don't believe in giving them unless it is truly warranted, needed, and it will be transformative for the city. And this project will be that. So council meets tonight to make the decision final. I'm very optimistic that will be a yes to approve the abatement. The only other thing I want to say is we have an excellent relationship with our schools. And I was just with the superintendent last night and the treasurer. I met with them personally in executive session with their board. And they too have, and they have already voted yes. But I just want to tell you how important that is to the city of Reading, that we make sure that they are on board for this as well. And they are indeed. So thank you for all you did to move this project along. And we hope you will give good consideration to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Harry, I know there are many others here that have an interest in the project. I'm wondering if anybody from Givaudan would like to come forward. Maybe Fred Wilson would like to come forward and just give us a little bit of an overview of the project.
Sure. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Fred Wilson. I head up Givaudan's real estate activities across all of North America, and it's been my privilege to support this project. I'd like to start off today and thank everyone for their concern and their well wishes for our team in Louisville. We're all working together to support them, make sure they have everything they need to come through this situation, and definitely prevent anything from happening again in this sort of way. The process that we have in Louisville will not be replicated here in Cincinnati. It is not part of our design for this new plant. Our new plant is important to our growth goals for the next 15 years and will enable us to create the right volume to be able to serve our customers and to grow our business. Are there any questions I can specifically answer?
Could you help us better understand what exactly you do?
So Givaudan makes flavors and fragrances.
There we go.
So we're like the old BASF commercials. We don't make what you eat, we make it better. Our marketing people have done a study, and we found that everyone in the developed world touches a Givaudan product 13 times a day. So from the time you get up, you brush your teeth, use whatever shower products, deodorants, hairsprays, everything in that part of your life. You come downstairs, you have breakfast, you have a yogurt, might have a cereal, you might have some oatmeal. You go on through your day. Lunch has a whole variety of things that you might interface with. You might take some medication in which we provide a flavor or mask a flavor. Some things just don't taste good after they come through the manufacturing process, and you don't want them to taste like anything. So we also can mask flavors as well. Dinner is a big one for us. We have a large savory business, helping things taste right. And then everybody has a little nightcap to help them sleep, and we're doing quite a bit in that field as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Commissioner, I'm going to thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it. I don't know that I have any questions so much as I just am excited about this project. 308 full-time permanent positions at a $75,000 average pay rate is impressive. And I don't remember in my time here seeing a project quite like this one that has this kind of impact on a community as small as Reading. And so I'm very excited for the city of Reading, for the project landing there. But I do want to say, I think it's noteworthy that Ready, the Port, and Alloy were all part of structuring this arrangement. When we think about economic development here at the county, those are the three organizations that help assist economic development for the commissioners and for the community. And so it is gratifying to see all three coming together on this project. I also note that the site readiness was very important for this project, to get the site ready for when the time came that a company was interested in locating there. And so I'm glad that we had the brownfield site readiness money available to the port for these kinds of projects. I mean, that's the whole idea, is to remediate a site and get it ready so that something will land there. So this seems like a really good project. I'm excited to support it. I do want to say, though, that I know the vote is tonight from the council out in Reading, and I hear you saying that there was a great deal of support there. So we will wait to hear that when they are officially voting on the project. And so my support obviously is contingent upon the support of the folks out in Reading, but from all indicators, it seems like that's going to happen. So we'll look forward to getting that information. And that's really all I have. I'm just really excited, as I said, about this project, and glad that in this case, all the economic development levers that we have all worked in tandem with one another to make it happen. So, Commissioner Dumas.
Just a couple things. Thank you, Madam Chair. I was looking at the sheet that had the construction and the jobs and investments, and that's awesome. I certainly appreciate that. And the previous gentleman talked about the process in Cincinnati will be different than the one in Louisville. That was one of my questions, so he answered that. Just wondering, as we look at the tax abatement of 100% for 15 years, is there any room for flexibility? We don't normally approve, I don't normally approve 100%. Just wondering, the tax abatement, any consideration of reducing that or reducing the percentage or extending the amount of years?
I will say that in our negotiations with them, we were told that other states that we were competing with were actually even offering more than 100% for 15 years. So I think it would be hard to get them to change their mind, because that was one of the reasons why they chose Cincinnati, or I should say the city of Reading. But I can always share that with the company. And
Well, as we look at growth, I mean, 15 years is really not a long time, maybe for me, but even, looking at 20 years, I mean, had that ever been? So the other people, their offer was better. What was their offer, if I could ask?
I believe 100% for 20 years was one of the offers.
Oh, 20, I was right on it, okay.
And I will say that this is, there are precedents for this. There was Usui up in Sharonville where we offered 100% for 15 years because it was a very similar project, brought like about 300 jobs to Sharonville. And then we did one more recently for WorldPay in Sims Township, and they've turned it into thousands of jobs. I should point out that this site has additional room for growth, so it doesn't mean that that will only be 300 jobs. They have the land available to expand twice beyond this, so it could be even more.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, and just to clarify on that point, Commissioner, so the incentive runs for 15 years, but the expectation is that the company will be there far longer than 15 years.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any, I mean, I don't have any sense of how long these kinds of companies are around. Do we have any, or maybe we could hear from Mr. Wilson on how many years they expect to be in Reading and providing
Forever, huh? Forever?
I know that they did say there was
forever?
additional room for
Okay.
growth, so I'm sure they're
He's
planning.
coming up.
Well, my crystal ball isn't quite that clear. I can tell you that Givaudan began in 1795,
Oh, there we go.
a small group of people in New York, and we're still going strong. So there's absolutely no reason to think the next, 300 years aren't available to us as well.
That's very helpful.
Thank you.
That's very helpful information. We will all not be able to hold you to that.
If it's all right, also, Linda from the city of Reading would like to talk about the compensation agreement with the schools. Just to.
Okay.
In all honesty, we sat down, the city representatives and those from the schools, and we asked that question. That's a good question. Could this project have been done with a shorter term and lower percentage? And frankly, the challenge is, I like how Kevin Donnelly from Ready puts this. I, in 40 years in economic development, have faced all of the challenges that this project brought, but not in one project. Just simply alone relocating the Duke Energy line added an exorbitant amount of money to the project. And so at the end of the day, we decided that yes, it was justified. And so the city is sharing a third of our new earnings tax with the schools. They're very comfortable with that. And there's also a separate compensation agreement that the company has entered into with the schools. We want to make sure they're very comfortable with the project, and they are.
Good, thanks.
Great, thank you. Just by way of information, how long has the company been located in the city of Cincinnati?
I could probably answer that.
Okay.
My father was superintendent at National Distillery, and right across from there was Freeze and Freeze. And I remember that from the time I was 5 years old. But let's let Fred give a more scientific answer.
We're not going to ask you your age, so we can't do the math.
Thank you. 1915 is what we trace our lineage in Cincinnati back to with the Freeze and Freeze company.
Okay, and it's noteworthy also that you're sensitive to the idea that the city of Cincinnati is also counting on you being there, your employees being there, and so there's a nod to the city of Cincinnati in addition to what you're doing in Reading. So,
Absolutely.
any other comments?
No,
Okay.
nothing else.
All right. Well, thank you. So our next order of business, Harry, if you would step back up and let us know how to proceed.
Yes, I will point out that Givaudan has informed us that they're trying to do the purchase agreement on December 10th, and they were hoping to get this approved before then. So if there's any way to get it on the agenda before then, they would appreciate it. But that, we were planning on Thursday. I don't know if that's still that meeting is still have a quorum, but if not,
Yeah, so we're looking at Thursday, or doing legislative action on the 10th. Yeah, is the time relevant on the 10th? If let me just put it out there. So if we were to have any challenges on the Thursday of this week, the Tuesday of next week, we could take legislative action, even though it's a staff meeting.
and that would work for them. Yes,
That
they
would
just
be
need it
okay.
done the 10th. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the information. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Okay. Thank you all for coming in. Really appreciate it. Exciting. Okay. Our next item is the ARPA reallocation recommendations. Holly Chrisman, the Assistant County Administrator, is here.
Good afternoon. I'm here today to review the American Rescue Plan Act and share the administration's recommendations for the reallocation of $3.1 million. So as the board is aware, we have until the end of this month to obligate any remaining American Rescue Plan Act dollars. And of course, we have until December of 2026 to spend all of our ARPA dollars. And just as an update, this is as of mid-November. We had about 7.4 million remaining to obligate. Since that time, though, in the past handful of days, that 7.4 number has dropped to just about under $4 million. So we're paying more bills as they come in. So that number is dropping every day. But of the remaining amount, between $3.1 and $4.4 million is available for reallocation. And the reason for the two amounts is dependent on the board's decision on one program. In 2023, the board may recall they entered into an agreement with the city of Norwood for a stormwater project in the amount of $1.3 million. This was to alleviate overland flooding on the Elm Avenue area. And in addition to the 1.3, city of Norwood did match it with $800,000. The administration was recently notified by the city of Norwood that the bids came in higher than expected, and the project requires another $1 million to complete. So I'll get into a little more detail in the recommendation section on that project. So here is, though, the outline of the program balances that are being recommended for reallocation. Several of the line items, as you can see on here, are smaller amounts in the grand scheme of the amount we received in ARPA. And those are really for remaining balances or unspent balances in grant agreements that we had with organizations. And that's pretty typical of grant agreements. They may not spend all that they applied for or the agreement was for. So several of these line items are just cleaning those up and closing those grants out. The largest line item, as you can see here, is under broadband in the amount of $1.6 million. We had been working, I think the board is aware, with CMHA on projects to bring broadband access to one of their largest buildings. Unfortunately, when CMHA went out for bid about a month ago on this project, there were no bidders. And so there is unfortunately not time to bid given the ARPA deadlines. The other large line item is the 513 relief bus. And I think the board is aware that thanks to the great work of our team here and our community partners, we were fortunate to discover that the healthcare organizations providing services on the bus, as well as our community partners, were not seeking compensation for those services. So that cost, though, was originally contemplated when we put this budget together in 2021. So those costs came in lower than anticipated, which I think is a great reason to celebrate that we have such great community partners and great relationships to provide those services at no charge on the bus. So what will happen, though, with the bus, ARPA will continue beyond 2024 to pay for several costs related to the bus, including the 3 513 relief bus employees, marketing, and paid advertising all through 2026. We will be transitioning some of the day-to-day costs and supplies to other funding sources now that ARPA obligation deadline is upon us, and that will be out of 2 levies. So you can see here, without the Norwood grant, we have $3.1 million available for reallocation. If the board decides not to add another $1 million to the Norwood grant, we would have roughly 4.5 to reallocate. So when we looked at potential recommendations to bring forward to you today, we based those on 4 tenets that I think the board, you've probably seen this several times now since I've been up here, is of course we want the programs we recommend to be aligned with the Board of County Commissioners' priorities. Over the past several months, we've wanted to avoid creating new programs given the ARPA time constraints. We want to focus on programs that will solve critical issues and provide long-term benefit. And we want to make sure the funds will be spent based on past performance if we're amending agreements or entering into new agreements. So based on all that information, we are recommending 2 programs for reallocation. We recommend $2.1 million for affordable housing. As the board is aware, to date, more than $21 million is being deployed to create or preserve almost 750 units of housing, which comprises 23 projects. We believe that allocating additional funds toward this effort will continue to help meet the board's priority of creating additional affordable housing. It will also help our community, given the continued need for housing production in our region. And of course, this has lasting impacts after the ARPA dollars are expended. And the board is aware of Cincinnati Development Fund is administering these funds on our behalf, and they continue to be exceeding the requirements of this agreement. The second project for recommendation is the additional funding to complete the Norwood Stormwater Project. As previously stated, they initially received a grant from us for 1.3. They're putting an $800,000 match. But unfortunately, when this project was bid out, the costs came in significantly higher. And in order to finish the project, another $1 million is needed. And unfortunately, Norwood does not have that amount of money for this project. Norwood, though, will be funding roughly up to $100,000 for the required easements for this project. And Noah Powers is here. I think he's over here in the corner. He's a safety service director with Norwood. If there are specific questions about that project that I'm unable to answer, but thank you for being here, Noah. So as we continue to close out the final grants over the next probably about 10 days, there is the potential that we will have approximately up to $200,000 available for reallocation. Given the timelines to get agreements set and approval by the board, we would recommend that any excess funding that is available, it could be anywhere, like I said, between 10 and 200,000. We're still closing those programs out. We would recommend that remaining amount goes to Council on Aging for their Senior Utility Assistance Program. This amount would be in addition to the $489,000 that the board already allocated for this purpose, and that agreement will be coming before the board next week for consideration. The reason to add additional funding to this program is, again, the program appears to be a board priority to continue to assist seniors with their utility bills, but it also has longer-term sustainable funding beyond ARPA through the Senior Services Levy. Our additional ARPA funding will just allow the Council on Aging to add more seniors into the program while the money is available. So in terms of next steps, of course, we're here today to answer any questions you may have and listen to any feedback or discussion, any changes to the recommendations. But we would like to have a resolution amending the ARPA plan at the 5th, 10th, 12th meeting, because any agreements that we have, and we would have to have the board approve any agreements on the reallocation in December. So with that, again, I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, Mr. Powers is here with Norwood. If there's any specific questions on that project as well.
I think it would be helpful to have him come forward and just explain this. It's a large amount of the funding that we're talking about. So thanks for being here.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate it. So we did send this project out to bid. We had initially estimated it to come in about $2.1 million. It came in closer to $2.9 million. Some design changes were made along the way in cooperation with MSD. Basically, the end of this storm sewer detention area connects into the MSD system, and they do have some utilities in the same area. So some modifications had to be made there that caused some cost increases as well. But it's a very difficult area to work in, and the detention area is down essentially at the bottom of a ravine, sort of in a U shape behind some homes in the area. So difficult area to work in. Our low bid was $2.9 million. They were as high as $3.8 million. So quite a range on that as well.
Okay. Thank you. Do you know how many homes are impacted?
There are approximately 25 homes that are in the easement area. We've had the easements assessed, so we've determined the values of them. They are approximately $118,000 is the fair market value for where these easements would take place.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the information.
You're welcome.
All right, so I just have a couple of questions. So thank you, Holly, for the presentation. I just want to say, because we might not say it again, thank you for all the work that you've done, along with other members of the team, to get these dollars out. I mean, $158 million in Hamilton County is a lot to manage, with priority shifting and fund balances coming back. And I know it's been challenging, but I'm really, really proud of the work that you have done with the team to make sure that we were hitting the mark on how we spent these dollars, and also the community members that participated in the very beginning at those roundtable discussions to help us better understand what the community priorities were, and then help us, figure out where the agencies were and work through all those processes. So thank you for doing all that work. I have a question on the chart that talks about some of the dollars that remain, or balances rather, that are coming back. So this commission, and let me just speak for myself at the moment, but generally, we have talked quite a bit about relief for people who live in their homes, right? Property tax relief, utility relief, trying to make sure that people can afford to stay in their homes, given some of the reevaluations that have happened. So on this list, you've got mortgage. I wish I had asked you this earlier. Mortgage at $80,000. What is that?
We originally allocated, I believe it was $6.6 million for mortgage and property tax assistance. That was through Job and Family Services work. And that program was closed down about 2 or 3 months ago, and they weren't sure when they closed it down, exactly. That was pretty close out of $6.6 million, the target. So that program is closed, and that's the remaining amount.
I see. Okay, so not to be confused with the rent relief.
Right.
That was a completely different program. So this
$100 million, yeah.
$100 million, right, spent on rent relief. So this is specific to property owners. All right, so that's very helpful. So we also have a request from the Community Action Agency and Legal Aid for $100,000 to help with that very thing. Which and just to generally frame this, this commission has given money to legal aid to help those that are in fear of foreclosure, but we did not allocate any money to help with those maybe temporary payments to keep folks in their homes. And so the request from legal aid and CAA is to provide them with that pot of money so that not only can they counsel people about how to remain in their homes, they can actually keep people in their homes by providing this financial assistance. So I appreciate the recommendations of the administration. I think they are on target with the housing piece because that's already set up. It's running well. We've gotten all kinds of housing units stood up through that program. It's really exciting to be working with CDF. And I also am very favorable of the need in Norwood for the stormwater remediation. So I'm happy to support that. I'm not making a motion, but I do want to say that I would support the $100,000 going to CAA and legal aid, especially since we had already allocated $80,000 for mortgage relief. We just didn't use it because the program shut down with those monies still available. So to me, that's that's really a $20,000 ask, really, because we already had 80 allocated for it. So I will, I'm saying it out loud now. I will do whatever I need to do to try to advocate for that, but I'm only one of three, and so I'll be interested to see where everybody else sits on that. But with that, Commissioner, I'm going to turn it over to you for any comments or questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Holly. You rock. And your team rocks too. Just as was said earlier, all the money you and the county had to work with, and to end up with just a small amount is great. I also would be in agreement with CAA and legal aid being a part of this distribution of monies. They do great work, both entities. And as we talk about Norwood, I do have I don't know, 1 million additional monies we're talking about. And I heard the gentleman say, there he is. There were some modifications that were done. Some of them were done by MSD. And as we know, as modifications are done, that means an increase in cost. So you want to come up. So there was an increase in cost, and how did you guys think that the increase would be handled? Come to us like you did today, or what?
Well, showing up here today has been part of our process of trying to figure out how we could do that. As you may or may not know, Norwood is still in a financial or a fiscal emergency declared by the state. So we do have fiscal oversight from the state auditor's office, which means we do a fiscal recovery plan that's a 5-year plan that really limits our ability to make extra expenditures when we have something like this happen. So we have been looking for avenues to pay for that. To cover like the additional $150,000 in easement costs, we are going to be moving some funds around internally. So there will be some things that don't get done, some equipment that doesn't get bought to cover that piece of it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does somewhat. And I know that Norwood had a very significant flooding issue a couple of years ago. I'm aware of that. I'm just thinking about the other communities or villages that also have flooding problems, and wondering if our 1 million that it's 1.3 we had committed already, 1.3, if that's sufficient, and where would you go if you didn't get the other million?
We would not do the project.
Don't look at me with those eyes. Come on. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Just asking.
Just answered.
Yeah. And we know there's a need, and there are needs everywhere, but we really want to help if we can. And that's why we put in the first million. Okay, I see you. And, but anyway, because I was saying another million, but as you said, modifications had to be made, and that's a serious issue, and we certainly want to be helpful. That's all I had. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Closing statements, Holly? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say on the last page you talked about estimated leftover, the 200,000, and you were talking about additional monies for senior utility assistance, and I totally agree with that because seniors need a lot of help too. So that's all I had.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that. All right. So Holly, you would like to bring forward legislation as soon as possible. That's what I heard you saying.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. I think you've got the
Yeah,
direct.
so what I heard, if just to confirm, is so probably a little over 2 million for CDF for affordable housing, 1 million for Norwood, 100,000 for CAA, and then any remaining amount to Council on Aging. And we'll be sure to come back to the board. If it is more than 200,000 to Council on Aging, we will let the board know.
I didn't hear you say legal aid. I heard you say
It would be with CAA, but a partnership with legal aid.
Okay.
I think the agreement would be
Okay.
with CAA.
Okay. Very good.
And if you don't mind, I really appreciate the thank yous, but where's Sarah? Sarah is back here in the back, and Allie's not here, and Lisa Webb, and there's just been a whole team of people, so couldn't do it without them.
Thank you, Holly. But you are the tip of the spear.
Let's give me a second.
And this has been going on for years because we had the
Yes.
CARES Act money and then we had the ARPA money. So thank you truly for all that you've done. I do want to acknowledge Commissioner Reese is not here. I should have done this in the beginning. I'm going to make a motion to excuse Commissioner Reese from the meeting.
Second.
Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. And Holly, I assume you'll keep Commissioner Reese up to speed on all things. Okay, thank you very much for that. All right, our final item is the 2025 budget discussion. Administrator Luda.
Thank you, Commissioners. So there is no presentation for this item. This is literally just a time to receive publicly any board questions or thoughts on the budget. Several weeks ago, I delivered to the board a $389 million general fund budget, over $1 billion all funds. We've had one public hearing on that. We have another public hearing this evening in Silverton at 6 p.m. For anyone who wants to come out for that. But we've had, again, as I said, one public hearing. We've had some conversation with individual board offices. But this is literally a time for the board just to ask any questions to provide any thoughts you have on things you would like the administration to investigate as we look to close this out and pass a budget for 2025 on December the 12th. So with that, Commissioner, I'll turn it back over to you. Happy to answer any questions or to receive any feedback.
Okay, thank you. I also I was going to note the hearing this evening in Silverton. Thank you to Silverton for hosting us. 6 o'clock, if anybody has any thing they would like us to think about as we contemplate the budget and finalize a budget, please come out. All comers are welcome and welcome to speak to us this evening. So I have expressed in our one-on-one some of the things that I am hoping to accomplish by way of the recommendation. A lot of them have to do with economic development, the revitalization program, and some of the other things that we do in partnership with the 49 jurisdictions in Hamilton County. And so I will be pursuing those. Also talking about the VSC and some of the machinations there. They've asked for more than 10% of their budget, and how does this board respond to that? I'm already on record saying I don't know that it's necessary for us to appoint all 6 that we're allowed to appoint, but would be interested in appointing some. So I'll be interested to hear how those discussions go, and all of this will be discussed by our chiefs of staff. As everybody knows, we can't talk to one another about these things, but our chiefs of staff can talk to one another and let each office know where the priorities lie. So I'm looking forward to ongoing conversations about the budget, and we'll get there when we have to get there, which is within the next couple of weeks here. So Commissioner Summer-Odumas.
Thank you so much. And so, Jeff, you dealt with 3 times as much as Holly did, but Holly rocks. I don't know about you. But thank you so much, because your budget presentation, your booklet, and really easy to understand. The summary was great, and you and your team certainly looked at our priorities, and so I appreciate that. I'll just say a general statement as it relates to our reserve and our general budget. I am just a stickler about not going into our reserve. We never know what's going to come next year or in a couple months or whatever. So if we can maybe pick one project for a one-time allocation through the reserve, that's okay for me. But at the point where we're giving money and perpetuating people and entities and agencies so much that they have become dependent on us. And I'll say, for example, I'll say Blink, I'll say the music festival, and that we were trying to be very helpful through the pandemic to pull people up and provide art and entertainment, but it's been 4 years. So how long do you continue to do that? I have my own idea of what all that extra money has done for those different, and those are not the only ones. To continue to fund activities, which only allows them, I've seen, and I have no data on this, but I've seen, for instance, Blink was like 2 days, now it's 3 days, now it's in Kentucky. And maybe all the money we gave did not make that happen, but I have a feeling that it did, even with the music festival, how they extended what they do. So I just am really uncomfortable continuing to support financially entities that we were trying to just bring up and help them to make sure that they exist. So in the budget, I'm going to indicate my pleasure or displeasure of continuing to fund those things. For me, the budget is personal as it relates to, I want to know about the basic needs of our people in Hamilton County. Do they have enough to eat? Do they have a place to sleep? Do they have clothing? Our youth, are we able to give them some hope? So it may be far-fetched, but I believe that our money should go toward the basic needs that people have. And if we can supply additional arts and entertainment, that's fine. I know my small event grant, not mine, I brought it to the board. They are supporting that. That was cut in half along with Blink and supposedly cut in half if we continue that way, including Blink and the Music Festival. And I understand that. But if I had to get rid of some of my initiatives in order for us not to continue to undergird these activities, it's on record, I would do so. As long as we're doing enough to feed our people, to house our people, to clothe our people, and give our young people and seniors hope and the services that they need. So as I said earlier, if we have to tap into the reserve, if it's a one-time project, maybe like tiny homes, I keep bringing that up. I've brought it up for the last 2 years or so. We need a vision from the board, if we're in support of that, how we're going to move forward for tiny homes, for either permanent housing or temporary housing. I recommended $1 million in our budget for that. Currently, there's no money in there for that. But it will cost at least that much for us to purchase land, to look at wraparound services, things like that. Those are the things that I find are most important for me as a member of this board. And I'll just leave it right there for now.
Okay. Let me just pile on a little bit and say I too support tiny homes and have talked to CDF, and I know you've had conversations as well about how to roll that into some of the housing dollars that we've provided to CDF and see if tiny homes is an option for us. And so I'm hopeful that they are doing that work. They've had direction from a couple of different offices as to, our desire to see if that can work. And maybe it can and maybe it can't, but I think it's worth looking into as well, especially for certain populations, especially veterans. So I'm 100% there with you on that one. And then I just want to clarify, the large event grant, which I initiated a number of years ago, was meant to expand. Have the county partner with these different events, but also expand those events so that we bring in more revenue into the county, all for the purpose of funding kind of the basic services that we do, as you mentioned, here in the county. So it was not so much a response to COVID, although it was around that time. It was more of a, how can the county participate in bringing these events here and expanding these events to bring more revenue and activity into Hamilton County. So that was the purpose at the time. As you say, that this small event grant has also now been in front of us for a few years. That was one of your initiatives. So we'll continue to have these conversations, but I didn't want it to go without saying that at least from myself, and I was the author of the large event grant, it was not intended to be just a response to COVID. I just didn't want to clear that up. So, all right, so more to come when it comes to budget conversations amongst our chiefs of staff, so we can get to a final product.
I had one comment as it relates to expansion, which is good, but I just don't want those entities to become dependent on us as it relates to expansion. And I just think that's what's happened, because they know the county is going to continue to give them money. At some point, they need to figure out how to expand without our money.
Okay. And it is. I just do want to note it's a competitive process, so they have, they have to fight for those dollars.
They do, yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you. Administrator, anything additional?
No, nothing else other than, again, just to remind the public, public hearing tonight in Soberton is at 6 o'clock. And as is always the case, the administration is available to answer questions from board offices. We will convene with chiefs of staffs as well as we look to finalize a final budget resolution for hopefully next Thursday.
Okay, great. All right, I'll entertain a motion, or I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Thank you.